Hi guys, welcome back to Clubhouse Kids. Today I'm going to be sharing with you what I did for week 2 of my preschoolers alphabet review. So we are in the last 2 weeks of our school year. We did letter of the week throughout this whole school year, and then for the last 3 weeks of school we're doing letter review. So my goals for my 3 preschoolers, I had 4 students, was that they would be able to identify uppercase and lowercase letters and to be able to identify most of the alphabet sounds. And so we are in review week 2. If you missed what I did for review week 1, I will link that video below, but this is the activities we did for our second week of review. So for circle time, the book that we read this week was called The Mixed Up Alphabet. So I teach preschool 3 days a week, and so on day 1 we always read a literacy book, on day 2 we always read a themed book, and on day 3 we always read a math book during our circle time. So for our literacy book for this week we read The Mixed Up Alphabet. This is a really cute book. This is actually a book that I read them at the beginning of the year, but I think they enjoyed it more at the end of the year. So when I read it at the beginning of the year, the book didn't make as much sense to them, but reading it again at the end of the year, they found this book very funny. So this was a very cute book. And then each day for circle time, I would put these cards up on our whiteboard. My whiteboard is magnetic, and then the kids each got a couple letters, and so I would say mirror. What letter makes this sound? And then they would look in their cups and see if they have letter M, and then whoever had letter M could come up and put it on. This week we reviewed 9 letters all week during circle time. These were the 9 letters we reviewed. And then for day 2, it was the same activity, but with different cards, but with the same 9 letters we were reviewing. And then these were the cards that we did for day 3. And then the next thing they do is when my kids are playing centers, I would call one student to the table with me for just some one-on-one time. And what we did for that was on day 1, we really focused on letter M, letter R, and letter N. And day 2, we really focused on J, S, and C. And day 3, we really focused on O, Q, and U. I like doing individual assessments or individual time with each of my students so that I can work with them where their skill level is. Especially in the preschool, you're going to have kids that are a little more advanced. You're going to have kids that are very age appropriate, and you're going to have some that are just struggling a little bit with learning their letters or their sounds. So I really like to be able to pull individual students so that I can work on exactly where their skill level is. I really like using letter strips like this because there's so many different ways that you can either advance the activity or, if they're just learning, just kind of identifying, you could be like N and like nose and like 9 and like needle and like nail. Or if they're learning sound, you can say, what sound does N make? Yep, N makes N. Let's find some words that start with N, nose, 9, and so on. There's just so many different things that you could do. You could expand it and be like, can you think of any other words that start with letter N? And so what we usually do with this, however the child is manipulating this little activity, let's say they're just saying N for nose, then they get to pick out an eraser. I like to switch out my erasers that they get to for every week. So this week we did little bunnies, and so then they would say N for nose and then put the eraser on there. And then the other activity I do when I bring the child up individually is that we have just been reading letter strips. And so I would just put up the letter on, so I would just put this on the table, and they would take their finger and they would just put their finger on the circle and just say R-N-I-M-N. And then we would go to the next one and so on. If they missed any of them, I'd be like, oh, let's look at that again. And that's letter R, okay. And then if they continue to get the R wrong on all the strips, then like I said in the video before, I'll just make a little note of that and know that I need to work on that letter a little bit more with that child. So that is what I do for my teacher table time. And then we have our literacy trays. So usually during the school year, during literacy time, I have a certain period cut out, which literacy time is between 10 and 15 minutes. And the kids would come to the table and we would just work on the letter that we were focusing on for the week, since I did letter of the week, like a letter of the week curriculum. And so for our review for our literacy time, they come to the table and they complete 4 literacy trays. And so since I have 4 preschoolers, they each get a tray at a time. And after they complete that tray, I will check the tray, or if I've been like doing the tray with them, I know that they're done with that one, and then they switch with a friend. And the 4 trays stay the same for all 3 days of preschool for the week. So for week 2, the trays we did was, the first one is just our letters that we're reviewing. So these were the 9 letters we reviewed this week. And it's just on a mat. So I have my uppercase letters on this one, and then the same thing, just the lowercase letters, but still the same 9 letters. And then I have some cups. The red ones are my uppercase letters, and the blue ones are lowercase letters. So for day 1, they got the uppercase letters with the uppercase letters here, and they would just match the letters with the same letter on the mat. So that would be N. And then once they got that done, I would just check it. For day 2, I just switched it, and they got this one, which is the lowercase letters and the lowercase letters in the bowl. And they would do the same thing and just match up the lowercase letters. And then for day 3, I put the uppercase one back onto the tray, but this time they got the lowercase letters. And so they would match the uppercase letters on the mat to the lowercase letters in the bowl. The second tray that we did was some Popsicles. This is made by Learning Resources, and each of the 9 letters are on the Popsicles. So they would find lowercase s, and then they would find uppercase S, and then they would put those together. And then once they had those completed, I would check them. One thing that I do not like about a lot of these alphabet toys is on the back side, you will have another letter. So on the back side, this is letter F. And since we were not reviewing letter F, and I really didn't want them to focus on the letter, I just wanted them to focus on the 9 letters. What I do is I stick a little sticker over the other letters. So when they are looking for the S's and they come, that's like that on the tray, they know to just flip it back because that's not the one that we are working on. And so there's a lot of toys, alphabet toys out there that double the letters. And this is just a really easy way to hide the letters that you aren't working on or aren't focusing on. And so that was tray 2. So my other trays are back here. So tray 3 was a writing tray. They got to use these little erasers. They're mermaids and narwhals. And then for each of the 9 letters we're reviewing, I had the uppercase letter and the lowercase letter. So there's 18 cards right here. And they would pick out one, and then they could write the letter using the erasers. So we do focus on writing it the correct way. So for the N, they would go down and then around. So they didn't do all 18 letters every single day. I'm just kind of timed this one. They just got this one for about 4 to 5 minutes. They did a couple letters. They would identify the ones that they did, and then they would switch it with a friend. And then the last tray that we did this week is the same tray that I did with week 1, and I will be also doing it with week 3. And it's using these tubs from Learning Resources. They're alphabet tubs here. And this is what the tray looks like that. This little muffin tin is from the dollar store, and I just took some letters, so 9 letters from just an alphabet puzzle, and filled in each of the cups of a muffin tin. And then what they would do is they'd pick up the objects and they'd say queen. What letter does queen start with? It starts with Q. They would look in the muffin tin. Here's letter Q, and they would put the queen in that one. And here's a rainbow, so they would find R and put it in. Here's juice, they would find J and put it in, and so on until all the objects are done. Some of my kids last week, this one was definitely a tray that I worked with them. This week they actually got a little quicker, and I think they kind of was catching on to it a little more. I didn't have to oversee it as much, and so it'll be interesting to see going into our last review, because this is definitely a tray that I'm going to do all 3 weeks of our review. Now you can see that I only have 6 cup holders, but we are reviewing 9 letters, and so I just switched them out at the end of our day. So after day 1, you know, like letter C is pretty easy for them. So this one they would only have 1 day, whereas letter Q is a little bit tougher for them. So that one was in the tray the whole week. So that is what we did for literacy review this week. Thanks for following along. I will be sharing what we're doing for week 3 in my next video. And so I hope to see you guys there. Bye.